Welcome to episode 57 of the Eat for Endurance podcast. My name is Claire Shorenstein, and I am a board-certified sports dietitian and runner based in Santa Cruz, California. I provide virtual nutrition services to teenage and adult athletes of all abilities, and I host this podcast as a fun side project to demonstrate that there is no one-size-fits-all nutrition approach towards optimal health and sports performance. I do this primarily through my nutrition profiles featuring high-performing athletes, as well as interviews with my dietitian colleagues on various sports nutrition topics, with the occasional solo episode and other interviews thrown in. If you're new to the show, you can of course browse my podcast episode directory on my website, eatforendurance.com, or wherever you listen to your podcasts. And while you're there, I would be so appreciative if you'd support my show by leaving a rating or review. It's quick, it's easy, and of course, it's free. So let's move on to today's guest, ultrarunner and world record holder, Jacky Hunt-Broersma. If you're not already familiar with Jacky's inspiring story, I highly encourage you to check out some of the podcasts she did this past spring surrounding her world record accomplishment of 104 marathons in 104 days. She delves into great detail about her cancer diagnosis and subsequent leg amputation at age 26, and how 14 years later, she made a huge investment, $10,000 to be exact, in a running blade, starting her journey to becoming the badass ultramarathoner that she is today. Jacky has only been running for about 6 years, but she has done so many incredible things in the running space. As an amputee, of course, but also for runners with both legs intact. She's hilarious and has such a positive attitude. It was great to chat with her and learn more about her nutrition story, some of which she had not shared publicly until today. So without further ado, please enjoy my athlete nutrition profile with Jacky Hunt-Broersma. Jacky, welcome to the Eat for Endurance podcast. How's it going today?
Thank you. Thanks for having me on. Yeah, it's all good. Crazy. Busy with the kiddos, but all good.
Yeah, and I just saw on social media that you completed 200 miles in the 6-day long running across the years race. So congrats to you for that. How are you feeling?
I'm actually pretty recovered, which is surprisingly. I was struggling during the race with some shin issues, and I think that probably came from because I was compensating because my blade had injured my knee a little bit. It gave me major pressure points, so I was kind of limping a little bit, and that gave me more. Obviously, it aggravated my shin. So my shin's been quite swollen, but I'm getting back into it now again because my key race Amsterdam 100. So I'm focused back on that. So it's great. It's great to get back and just feeling a little bit more normal. I'm a little bit rested. So that's good.
Yeah. I mean, I saw you said that this was the hardest thing you've done. And of course, this is coming from someone who ran 104 marathons in 104 days. So I was like, whoa, that must have been quite the experience.
It was weird. Like you'd think and I think it was more the fact that you don't sleep. Because with the marathon, like doing the marathons, I'd do the marathons in the morning, and then I could get my full rest. I could recover. So I was very good with the recovery. But with this 200, it was a little different, where you kind of had I'd like have like a 2-hour nap here, or maybe a 4-hour nap. I think 4 hours was like the longest I'd ever done to kind of recover, and it was just not enough for my body to kind of recover. And also I think the other element was the weather was terrible because it rained and the course was super muddy, and so you had that factor kind of factored into it all. And then running 1 mile loop is kind of mentally challenging.
I wouldn't think so.
For so long, that's all you see. So it was weird. I thought going into it was going to be easier because I'd come off doing the marathon thing, but actually it was harder. It was just mentally harder. It was physically, the course tore my body up a little bit, and I think it was just because of all the amount of mud. So I was struggling to kind of stay on my feet a little bit, like sliding around. So I think if you add that into it, like part of your body starts hurting that you're not used to because you're normally used to just running straight, as it just adds to the element of complications. So it was really weird.
Yeah. And was this race local to you, or was it you had to travel to it?
No, it's local. It's about an hour from my house, so it
Okay.
wasn't bad. Yeah. And then I had it's like weird these races because I've done a 72-hour race, but I've never done one like this. So you
Hmm.
kind of set up a tent, and you have like all your gear with you, and you just kind of spend 6 days just running as many miles as you can. I mean, going into it, I knew my goal was always 200, just because I also had to be careful because it's not my key race. So
Mm.
my main race is set 100. So I didn't want to get injured. So I kind of there was like all those factors you kind of have to be smart about it, and make sure you can still recover and keep on with your main training.
Yeah, and I mean, this race spans New Year's Eve into New Year's Day
It
and all of that.
does.
So I mean, race across the years, that makes sense. So what was that like? You know, did you guys celebrate New Year's? Like, was there any festive aspect? Were you just like suffering? Like, what was going on?
No, it was actually really fun. But the funny story is I slept through New Year's. It was
Oh,
hilarious. I had a moment because it was like at 12 o'clock they actually bring out champagne and then everyone does a celebratory lap all together and to celebrate the new year. But what happened was I was kind of it was kind of getting, I mean, it was 10 o'clock in the evening and I was like, I could feel I needed some rest. And I was,
mm,
you know what, I'm just gonna, so 11 o'clock, I said, you know what, I'm just gonna take a 30-minute nap just to kind of recover, just because I was just not focused anymore. It's like you get to a point where you're so tired that you just, there's no benefit anymore being out there. So I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna take a 30-minute nap, set my alarm, and I freaking missed the alarm. And it's like I didn't hear it go off. And literally like 5 minutes to 12. And I think there was some fireworks that shot off that woke me up. 5 minutes to 12. And I was like, darn it, and I was like scrambling to try and get dressed and kind of get ready and put my leg back on and get out of the tent. So it was hilarious.
oh man. Well, I mean, I've been asleep for New Year's pretty much since having children. So I can't remember the last time I stayed up until midnight, except maybe when they were newborns and I had no choice.
Yeah,
Uh,
exactly. Yeah, I've become such a flake when it comes to New Year's. I'm like,
I,
yeah, I'm like, I'm all good intentions to stay up. And usually I'm like in bed at 10. I'm like, oh yeah, we'll
if
celebrate
I make it to
the
New
next
York New
morning.
Year's, yeah, that's like the goal. New York New Year's because I'm in California, then cool, that's great.
Yeah, yeah,
All right, so we're gonna cover fueling a bit later. So I'll put a pin in this event for now because I definitely want to
yeah.
circle back and find
Yeah.
out what was in your tent, like food wise, and how that worked. But first, I'd like to rewind a bit and dig into your nutrition roots, which is how I always like to start these athlete nutrition
Okay.
profiles.
Yeah.
So you grew up in South Africa. Any specific food related memories from your childhood or aspects of South African cuisine that you'd like to share?
Oh, yeah, South Africans eat a lot of meat.
Mhm.
We eat a thing called biltong, which is kind of like beef jerky, but much better.
How is it better?
It's not sweet because I feel beef
Mhm.
jerky's got a little bit more of a sweet taste to it.
Yeah, yeah.
With biltong, it is just purely salty. And yeah, it just feels like there isn't much added to it. It's just more
Mhm.
spices and just dried. Literally, it kind of tastes like a dried steak.
Mm.
You could basically that's what you're kind of basically eating, and it's just sliced up, but it's just dried.
Mhm.
And very salty, so it's not super good for you. But what it's really good for is actually long ultra runs.
I
It's
was
a
about to say, that would be such a
Yeah,
great food for that. Yeah.
exactly. It is brilliant for that. It is yeah, it's super good. I mean, yeah, the South African diet isn't super healthy. I mean, we eat a lot of I think unfortunately I think South Africa's got one of the highest um heart attack um yeah, stats in the world,
Oh,
just
really? I didn't know
because
that.
of the
Okay.
amount of meat and everything else that goes kind of with it. Because we do a lot of barbecues. We call it a braai, which is a little
Mhm,
bit
mhm.
different. So we do a lot of that and stuff. So yeah, growing up, I guess that was normal for me. That's just kind of what we ate. Didn't really know any different. I think kind of when I got into endurance sport, I was like, oh, maybe that wasn't too healthy. And you kind of learn your own way and kind of learn what's good and what's bad and stuff like that.
Yeah. So what would be like a typical dinner that you might remember from your childhood, or you might kind of really make you think of growing up in South
Oh
Africa?
yeah, in South Africa it would be like if we had a barbecue, it would be probably some sausage, which we call boerewors, which is a typical South African type of sausage. It's very different. It's not like your bratwurst.
Hmm.
It's got special herbs and stuff in it. Made out of beef sausage. So you'd have that on a bun with like a tomato and onion gravy, which is kind of known for South Africa. It's like this massive. My mom always used to make these amazing tomato and onion gravy that you kind of literally threw over everything. And yeah, it's pretty much, and then maybe a piece of steak or a pork chop or something. See, it's like there's a trend here. It's a lot of
Yeah.
meat.
Yeah. Hey, there's an onion and a tomato in there.
Yeah, exactly. There's some tomato in there. I mean, we'd have a side salad. Come on, we'd
Yeah.
have a little bit of
Okay. There you
green.
go. Okay, there you go. Awesome. So I've heard in many interviews that you were not a fan of running when you were young, but did you enjoy any other sports, or if not, what kinds of activities did you get up to?
I kind of, when I was much younger, my dad used to be a cyclist, so I used to kind of go bike riding with him and stuff like that. And then at school, I was a swimmer. So
Mm.
I used to swim for the team. And then, yeah, running was, I'm like, why would you want to run?
But
It
you
was
were
just
sporty
hilarious.
then. You were sporty,
I
just
was
not
kind
running.
of sporty, but it wasn't running. It was definitely running was just not. I just found running too much work. Yeah, I just didn't like the way it made me feel. I
Mm.
guess it just too much work. I just laughed at people when they did. Why do you want to get so sweaty? I can just jump in the pool and swim a few laps. That just seems so much easier.
Mm.
Um, yeah.
Did running, or sorry, did swimming and cycling, are those things that stayed with you as you grew older, or did it at some point you kind of just fell off being active?
Yeah, I kind of fell off being active. I kind of like because I got married and then from South Africa we started traveling a lot. So it's
Hmm.
kind of those type of activities just kind of fell off because we just didn't have time. So I mean, I'd get in the pool every now and then and just more for like from a health benefit. Like I'd go to
Hmm.
spin class. I joined the gym wherever we would live,
Hmm.
and just go do a spin class just more from trying to stay healthy from that aspect, but like actual sports,
Mm.
yeah, I kind of stepped away from it all.
Although you moved to the Netherlands, which is known for biking, right? I mean,
I
like, or
know,
just
I
for
know.
getting around,
Yeah,
right? Like,
but the
were
thing
you
is,
were you not like
it's
moving around on a bike there?
yeah. We used to. I mean, we used to have our shopping bag on. Like you have a special bag over your bike, and then you'd
Yeah,
go and do your grocery shopping that way.
yeah,
That's just what you do. But it's like you don't see that as exercise because that's
sure,
kind of just a means of getting around.
yeah,
And it was just easier just to because the grocery store would be maybe a 10-minute walk from my house, but get on a bike and takes you 2 minutes. You're there, you load it up, and then you cycle back home. So it was kind of
mm,
it's weird. It's like you are exercising all the time, but it's not that you see it as a sport or that it's as exercise. It's just a means of a way of getting around.
yeah. What part of the Netherlands were you living in?
We lived in a place called Soesterberg,
Hmm.
which is near Amersfoort and Utrecht. It's kind of in between.
Mm.
And then for a long time, and then after that, we moved to Almere, which is a little closer to Amsterdam. Commute-wise, it
Hmm.
was easier because my husband worked in Amsterdam, so it was easier for
Mm.
him to kind of go up and down.
Yeah, and you're also in the UK. Were you in London, or you were somewhere else?
We were outside London, in a place called Woking.
Yeah,
And do you know Woking?
yeah, vaguely. I lived in London for a few years, so
Oh,
I'm
okay,
like
cool.
vaguely
Yeah,
familiar.
yeah.
Okay.
Well, I say Woking, but we lived in Horsell, which is like right next to. It's like a small village, part of
Yeah,
Woking, but it's kind of a little bit more outskirtsy, like type
yeah,
of. But it was commute-wise, it was really easy for us to get into London because we both worked in London, so we had to commute up
yeah,
and down. So it made sense until it got really ridiculously expensive.
yeah, yeah,
As with everything.
yeah. Did your time in either country influence your food preferences? Either while you were, there
I
and that
think
was what you had, or maybe still now, like some things remain?
I think it's just expanded it a little bit. Like
Mm.
I've taken a bit from every country, and you kind of just make it your own, if you know what I mean. And it's just different. I mean, I miss the British pub food a little bit, but not very
Mm-hmm.
healthy. But
Yeah.
yeah, and I think with going into running and all that, I think that's influenced. It's definitely changed the way I see food and how I feel, because I've just got a better understanding. I don't think, in a sense, I had an understanding of how important fueling correctly was,
Hmm.
before I actually kind of got into more endurance sport and just kind of
Yeah.
pushing limits and stuff, and just finding out how important it is to actually, because I mean, tracking back, my relationship with food has always been a little bit of a sketchy one. Like growing up, for a long time I had an eating disorder, which
Mm.
I don't ever speak about. And it was kind of, so it's always been a bit of a weird relationship I've had. So I think, like, living in different places, you kind of learn different food styles and things like that. But also, like, getting into endurance sport has kind of given me a better relationship with it, and just knowing how to kind of feel myself,
Mm.
and eating right versus eating really bad, because that's kind of what I've been used to.
Yeah. Is that something you said you don't ever speak about, that you because you just still don't feel comfortable talking about it, or?
No,
or-
I don't know why I've never really spoken about it. Yeah, it's kind of just always been, it's kind of what's made me, in a sense. But I don't know why I've never really spoken about it. I don't think it's ever just come up. It's not like a
Hmm.
conversation you have and say, oh yeah, by the way, I actually
Sure, sure. Well, because
yeah,
especially because, and we'll get there, but a lot of people focus on the amputation, the cancer
yeah,
diagnosis, and all that stuff.
exactly,
But
exactly.
a lot of the stuff I'm interested in is kind of what is your story through the nutrition lens.
Yeah,
And it's kind of, I mean, not so shocking, I suppose, but so many of the amazing athletes I interview have had eating disorder, started eating at some point
yeah,
in their lives, whether it's when they're younger or as they were kind of starting out as more of an elite athlete or whatever it was.
yeah.
I mean, if you're comfortable sharing, I'd love to hear more,
Yeah.
but obviously no pressure.
No, 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 absolutely. I'm absolutely comfortable, and I think you're right. It just never comes up because everyone's so focused on me as an amputee, and
Hmm.
all those elements and stuff, that there is another part of the story. And it's weird, like um it's kind of going into endurance sport. It was hard because I used to use, like, you use food, like you use sport to, because for a long time, like even the cycling I used to do, I literally used to use it for losing weight. That
Mm,
was why I used to do sport,
yeah.
is that I would eat something bad. And especially because growing up with the in the my family environment, my parents weren't very good with, like, they didn't know. So, and they didn't have a lot of money, so
Mhm,
we grew up with very basic. So our food choices wouldn't have been super healthy anyway, because they couldn't afford it. So we
mm,
got what we got, and that was it. And I mean, when we used to have barbecues, yeah, great. They would splash out on some meat and stuff like that, but it was basic and it wasn't super healthy. So that's kind of how I grew up. But there was a subconscious of mine about, yeah, I don't even know how I developed it. Like,
well, that was my question, was, like, where do you think this stemmed from, and at
I
what
think
age did it start?
if yeah, it was weird for me. It was very much at the time, like, it was I was always driven, like my family, they had this perception of, you need to be perfect. I think it was in the time we grew up. It's like you have all these magazines of these
Mm,
perfect women, and that everyone was like super skinny, and that's how what you look like. And then you'd have like comments like from your grandma, and it's just the time you grew up, like, oh, you
mm,
need to be careful, don't eat too much because you're going to get fat. And kind of, you have that as a child kind of in your head the whole time. And I think that's kind of where it started spurring. And before I knew it, it literally got out of control. Like, I was like extreme. I would hide my food and just pretend I was eating my food and like throw it in the trash and stuff like that. So my spiral kind of happened quite quickly. But what I was doing then was, and I think that's kind of where that's where I kind of stepped back a little bit from sport, is because I was using it as a reason to lose weight. So I would indulge like I would like eat like crazy, and then I'd get on a bike and go for a 50-mile cycle so I could work off calories so I wouldn't
Yeah.
gain any weight, and then kind of come home and weigh myself. It was absolutely like, if I think back of it, it was absolutely ridiculous that I got myself into such a pickle about weight and where I was going and stuff like that. And so it took me like, yeah, I had to work through that and then kind of just got healed. And then of course I got diagnosed with cancer, and then
Yeah. Wait. So
everything was like, okay. And maybe that kind
Yeah.
of helped like refocus me or something. But for a long time, I actually thought my cancer was caused by my eating disorder. So I
Oh,
was like,
interesting. Why
it
did
was
you think
weird.
that?
Like I was worried because I used to do things like do take laxatives and stuff like that to
Oh, yeah.
kind of flush my system a lot more, which I know
Yeah.
a lot of people do.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I mean, I'm happy to be open about it because I have no shame. I mean, I did it, and that's the life I was living. And the weird thing was, like, for a long time, I was like, there was a part of me like, was it because of all the damage I was doing to my body then? Because I wasn't eating right. I was like, I was literally flushing out all the nutrition out of my system and stuff. And like,
Yeah.
obviously, it wasn't connected at all. I mean, it was totally two separate things. It was
Yeah.
it just happened.
Wait, can I just pause you for a minute? First of all, thank you so much for sharing all of this. And I know I'm not the only one in being appreciative of that. But also, so were you like a teenager when this was happening? I'm just trying to put it into context of like how old you were and at what point in your life.
I was a teenager. It started when I was 13. Yeah, it kind of started around I was 13. Yeah, because I was in high school, so I was in the US, I would be sixth grade. So yeah, that's 13, I guess. That's kind of
Yeah.
where it started for me, and I kind of went through until after high school, like it was still bugging me because when did I get? Yeah, kind of going into getting married. I mean, we got married really young. I was like,
Yeah. Yeah.
so it was kind of like on and off. I was still struggling with it a long time. So yeah, it
Yeah.
kind of stuck with me for a while.
And did you ever get treatment, like formal treatment for it, or you kind of just went straight into your cancer diagnosis because you also got
Um,
diagnosed pretty young?
I kind of got treatment like when I was in high school for a bit. Like it was yeah, yeah. Growing up in South Africa, yeah, you don't always get the best doctors.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I kind of got treatment and then kind of went off the rails with it a little bit. And then kind of, yeah, and then I guess we got married, moved and stuff, and it kind of put it on the, like, it was weird, like you could kind of refocus a little bit, but it was still always there. It's like always, and still now even, like I still like sometimes catch myself like thinking, oh, be careful, you're gonna get weight if you eat all that. And so there's like, it's weird. It's something that I think will stick, that stays with you for the rest of your
Yeah.
life, even though
Yeah.
you've dealt with it. It is
Yeah.
kind of something that's in your mind all the time. It's the weirdest thing. It's really weird. And then I got diagnosed with cancer, so the focus kind of changed, and it was like something different. But it was, yeah. So I had to kind of deal with that, from not only because I was struggling already, like with the eating, and then body image was obviously always bad because of the whole eating
exactly.
thing. And then this part of your limb, and I was like, seriously, I'm being punished here.
Yeah, I mean this is why, I think a big part of your story has been missing in a way, because you've spoken before of not having a great relationship with your body. You've said, I hated my body. I was hiding my amputated leg, and that was before you started running, and how running just brought so much more positivity and pride in your body and all, then strength and all of that. But I mean, it just makes so much more sense now, coming from where you were coming from, of just not having not having a great relationship with your body. It's not that, I mean, of course it had something to do with the amputation and all of that, but it was so deep before that, so it's really broadened. This puts a lot more context into what the situation was. So again, I really appreciate you sharing that. And yeah, I know that a lot of people struggle with these things and still struggle. And it's one of those things that you can get all the treatment in the world, and there will always be, or there often is, this voice that will kind of come up here and there, right? Even if even if all your behaviors are healthy and you're doing great and all that stuff, you know, just kind of, it is kind of a piece of you. And I can relate to that very much. So let's move on to the cancer diagnosis and leg amputation. And you've shared your story in many interviews, so we don't need to go in all those details. But I am very curious about the nutrition side of things because, of course, amputation is a major surgery and a huge piece of the recovery puzzle is nutrition. So, and you just shared all of this about, you know, the struggle with eating going into this whole process. So, you know, I'd really love to hear how your nutrition changed or evolved, or what this, you know, what these struggles were kind of, you know, immediately after surgery as you were kind of healing and dealing with everything, and the years that followed as you adjusted to life as an amputee, and kind of before you discovered running, you know, what kind of changed, if anything, in your nutrition, or maybe it didn't change at all, but just kind of sharing a little bit about this phase of your life.
Yeah, no, absolutely. No, my nutrition changed in a big way in the beginning. Like right in the beginning, it was weird. Like you get this cancer diagnosis, and the first thing you think about was like, okay, what can I do to survive? And I think there's a whole element of, okay, I need to survive this. I need to live better. And you kind of look at everything, and you do I mean, I did heaps of research, and I think everyone goes through that. It's like, okay, what could have caused this? Because you kind of, there's an element of you want to find out, why did you get it? What happened? Why did I eat wrong? Did I like, there's you're always looking for answers, and it's like, it took me a while to find, like, well, actually I didn't do anything wrong. It just happened. It was just kind of one of those things that no matter what diet I was following or anything, it probably wouldn't have caused what the type of cancer I got, type of thing. But for a long time, like, I went through and like revamped my entire diet. It became super healthy, super loads of vegetables. I cut out all alcohol. It was just like, I was just following like a really strict, just, okay, I'm just going to eat super healthy, super, like, loads of vegetables, lots of chicken. Like, it was totally different to what I'd grown up with. Like, there was hardly any red meat. It was just like, I just kind of cut it totally back. And I mean, it was weird. Like, and I think it might come from the whole eating disorder. Like, I became like obsessed. Like, I became obsessed with my diet. Like, it had to be a certain way. It was only, this is what I'm just gonna eat and stuff like that. So it was weird. It was like that became my new obsession. And then it kind of, I think it took, like, I think I did that for probably about 2 years into like amputee. Like, but then I think, like, the more I became more comfortable with, firstly, not having, because it's weird, like, you get this cancer diagnosis, but then for like the first 5 years you have to go and have yourself, you have to go for a full x-ray every few months. Like, it was, in the beginning, it was like every 3 months I had to go and have my lungs checked to make sure the cancer hadn't spread. So it's kind of, you're living cancer for like at least the first 5 years of after you've had your leg amputated. It's like, it doesn't go away. It's like this, like, you just like in it all the time. So I think for a while, like, I was just living, and I was like, okay, I'm making sure that I'm not going to get cancer again. So eating all this healthy stuff and things like that. But then the more you kind of get a little bit more comfortable with it, and then you realize, and the more research you do, and becoming a little bit more savvy with it, you realize that, you know what, no matter what you do, if you're going to get cancer, you're going to get cancer. It's like, there is an element of that. Yes, you have to live healthy to try and prevent it and things like that, but it's not the amount I was doing that wasn't going to prevent any. It was just, I think I was doing probably more harm, because I was probably not getting enough calories again. So it's kind of just looking at that. And I think the more I got comfortable with being me, being the diagnosis, and realizing, okay, I'm kind of making it through, hopefully the cancer won't come back, and just being a little bit more positive, trying not so much to focus on, I kind of became a little bit more relaxed with my diet. I mean, I still ate healthy and things like that, but there was more of an element where you could live a little, like, yeah, it's okay to have bad things once in a while and stuff. It became more about balance, because I just, like, that's my big motto through life. Everything has to have balance, except when you run the stupid distances I do.
Yeah. Was there, No, totally. Was there any enjoyment of food during this time, or was it just like so regimented, so goal focused that you didn't really think about it in that sense?
No, I didn't. No, I definitely there was no enjoyment of food.
Yeah.
It was kind of something I just had to do to fuel myself. It was weird. It was like I had this whole like cut off from food. Like I just like I'm like, oh well, I just have to eat this just to kind of just keep going basically. And yeah, it was weird. It was really weird.
Yeah. And was your husband eating some of the same things, or were you just doing your own thing?
He was eating some of the same stuff, but like doing more of a combination of his own thing.
Mm.
Yeah, just kind of. I mean, he was trying to be obviously supportive and things like that. But yeah, it was hard.
Yeah. All right. So let's fast forward to 2016. Your husband, who's also an ultra runner, is
Uh-huh,
getting into running, and that helps you decide to start running yourself. So
uh-huh,
I'd love for you to share a bit about that transformation you went through during these initial stages of running in terms of your relationship to your body and
yeah.
food and how you're viewing nutrition differently and all that kind of stuff.
I mean, it was funny because I never imagined myself being a runner at all. And so when with him running and us going to all the races and stuff, I was kind of intrigued a little bit. But it was kind of one of those things too. When and I've spoken about this before. It was like when you lose part of your body, there's so many like especially when you lose a leg, there's so many elements where people are like, oh, you can't do this, you can't do that, and it kind of that it gets a little exhausting because you're
Mm,
just tired of like fighting the stigma. And I think running was one of those things where I'm like, well, why can't I do this? Like it, I mean, I can give it a try, even though I was not in the mindset of like I wanted to do running. I mean, it was
hmm
weird, but once something's taken away from you, you kind of get into that mental like state where you're like, well, no, I want to try it. Why can't I do it? And it's just like
hmm
you forget. Like I've forgotten about the fact that I've always said I'm never going to be a runner.
Yeah.
But I was like, no, I want to do it now that I'm missing a leg. And so that's kind of how it started. I just kind of the first 5K race I did was on actually on a walking prosthetic that I tried, and I was like, oh yeah, we'll see how this goes. And it was hard. It was so hard. Like I literally, out of the 3 miles, I ran maybe 1 mile. The rest walking because I just like, oh man, I'm like, I feel like I'm dying.
Yeah.
But I was kind of, you know what, I can do better. So I was kind of, yeah, and I was annoyed that it went that bad. But I was like, you know what, I can do better. I can definitely do better. And I didn't give up. And so that's kind of how it started with like getting a running blade and just kind of moving forward and just kind of getting into it. And I like I've said before, I'm so grateful for running because it's given me a better relationship with not only my body but also like food. Because now I realize, well, I need to eat if I want to run the distances I want to run. And food isn't the enemy. And I think that was such a big lesson I had to learn, that food wasn't my enemy, that it was
hmm
okay to kind of eat. And I enjoy eating now, maybe a little too much sometimes, but
was
but yeah,
was
it's
yeah. Was that, like, kind of like a gradual realization, or was there kind of a key moment or key event or key distance or anything that really kinda made that sink in?
I think it was a gradual transition until I kind of hit ultra running.
Mhm,
And then it was more of a realization that I can't go these distances if I'm not eating correctly. And that's
mhm,
kind of where the mind had to switch a little bit. And yes, I still struggle now where I'm like, yeah, go for a run and I forget to eat and I'm like, oh shoot, I have done it again and I need to. And there's still that mental battle of that you kind of need to make sure that you don't go down that slippery slope of not
mhm,
wanting to eat and oh yeah, I've gained weight, blah blah blah. And it's like because the reality of running too, the other thing which was shocking to me, like just because I used to use cycling and swimming and stuff to lose weight versus rather than being fit and healthy and getting
mhm,
toned and like building muscle and stuff. When I started upping my distances, I didn't actually lose weight. I was gaining weight, which to me was
mm,
like a big deal. And I was like, wait a minute. I'm gaining weight. What the hell is this? And then but then it is muscle I was gaining. So I was
Mhm.
gaining correct, but from a mental point of view, coming from somewhere where it's been so in my head always that I have to use sports to lose weight. I need to lose weight. I shouldn't be getting heavier. And it was such a mental block that I kind of had to get over. And I don't even know how I did it. I just kind of had to refocus and realize that, you know what, I'm getting stronger versus that you're gaining weight. It's no, I'm getting stronger, and that's the whole point of the process.
Yeah, yeah. And I mean, and since we're on the topic of weight, I mean, for you, it's especially important because we're trying to minimize weight loss and, massive
Yeah,
weight fluctuations. Obviously, we want to make sure you're fueling properly especially with long events, but weight stability is particularly important because you want to make sure your running blade still fits. So,
exactly.
yeah.
And yeah, and
So,
that is such a key thing. And the weird thing was when I did the marathon, the consecutive marathons, the
mhm.
number one question I got was, did I lose any weight?
And you didn't,
Uh,
right?
and I didn't. And
Yeah,
people were so
which is great.
shocked with that. I'm like, no, I didn't. I actually didn't lose weight because I had to during the process I obviously had to go see I needed to get a new prosthetic made. And with that, and because I don't weigh myself at home ever like anymore. Like
Yeah.
the only way I know that I'm gaining weight and stuff is because I need to go and have myself weighed at the doctor's and
Hmm.
when I have a new prosthetic made. And so when I was doing that, the comment to me was, "How is this possible? You've run all these marathons. You've not you weigh exactly the same as you did just before you came in, before you started your marathon thing." I'm like, "Well, then I've won because that was the whole thing. Was I had to make sure I was fueling enough so I didn't lose weight and that I
Hmm.
was recovering. And because with the if I lose too much weight or even if I gain too much weight, then my stump changes. So then
Yeah.
my prosthetic just fits differently and it's not as comfortable anymore. So I have to be even more careful with that. But I think I've become so in tune with my body. I know when I gain weight, when I lose weight, and I think just with all the issues I've had, I just know my body so much better now.
Hmm.
So yeah, I was like, yeah, I need a medal for that. I didn't lose any weight.
No, that's great. That means that you were doing your job and you were feeling well. And that's a great segue into, I mean, hey, you completed 104 marathons, 104 days, and I know you touched on nutrition a bit in other interviews when you were doing
Yeah,
like a billion interviews on this, right? Uh, which is why I'm kind of glad I'm catching you now because it's not like this media frenzy, right? But
no,
how one of the things you mentioned was, you had to change your eating patterns. You had to be
yeah.
more conscientious about what you were doing. So let's get into the details of that. Like, what might a typical day of eating look like when you were kind of really in the thick of your 104 marathons?
I mean, I always made sure I had a really good bowl of oatmeal. My It was always mixed with some banana, oatmeal, and then or oats, and then some raisins. I kind of just like that combination. That just really helped. And then I would start my marathon. During my marathon, I would mix it up with some Spring Energy
Hmm.
gels, some Tailwind just to keep my sugar levels up. And then I kind of feel a lot with like, and it's hard because every day was different. Like,
Sure.
you kind of crave different things and stuff like that. And even though it was just some like I kind of approached it the same as I would with an ultra. Even though the distance was shorter, it was just because I was doing this every day. So it was kind of I just had to make sure I was eating all the time. And I'm kind of a big fan of real food. So like small boiled potatoes, like those are great because you can kind of just grab them and just kind of have some salt on them. So you get your salt in, and just kind of just kept that up and made sure that I was kind of getting the calories in. And if I wanted something more, then I would even sometimes actually if because doing the Spring Energy gels, like I mean, it's all natural foods and stuff like that, and it's great because you can just put it in your vest and stuff. But it does get tedious a little bit,
Yeah, I
especially when
use
you're
those
doing
too.
hardcore.
So,
I'm
yeah.
like, yeah, the apple sauce, the awesome sauce
Yes,
is
the
great, but
best. Yeah.
like
There's
a
only
day
so many you can
thing,
have.
I'm like, oh.
Yeah.
So then I kind of mix it up with like peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, stuff like that. It's just you kind of get your protein in, you get your sugars in, you get a little bit of combination of everything, some good calories, and then I would do that. But I would then make sure, like, when I've stopped, is just eat to recover, like having some yogurt, having a massive big salad with some chicken on it. Just kind of just doing, like, it seems basic, but it's like sometimes we just forget and we'll just grab anything. Like, I remember, like, the first few days, like, everyone's like, how many pizzas are you having? I'm like, yeah, that worked okay. I mean, it was okay for every now and then, but what I started to notice was that I wasn't getting what I needed to recover. And I think the recovery was key. So it was just making sure you kind of eat. It's, again, it comes down to balance and eating a good, healthy, balanced diet and just having what you need. And I think with endurance sport, that's what you need, rather versus than grabbing a donut or yeah, it's all just empty calorie. Well, yeah, it just does nothing for your body for recovering and healing and all that.
Yeah, I mean, it's all about timing and what you're getting where, and different foods have different uses based on what you're doing, right? But
Yeah.
I think somewhere I saw a list of like how many 200 gummy worms. I forgot what it was. Like somewhere, I forgot what it was. I remember seeing some list of like how many of each thing you had.
I know. And then it's funny, like Courtney, well, she responded to that, and she was like, yeah, that wasn't enough gummy worms. I think you
Yeah, of
needed
course.
your gummy worms. I'm like, yeah,
There were some
it's
nachos in there too.
It's
Yeah,
some of ultra running. I mean, there's a whole element of, like, it's about balance. And the weird thing is, like, your body will, like, my body was telling me when I needed something. Like, it would suddenly, I would be like really craving like cheese or something like that, and I'm like, okay, I'm lacking a little bit of calcium. So it was like, it would tell me, like, if I wasn't getting enough of one food. And so I think I've become so much better in tuned with listening to what my body needs. And also our bodies have become efficient. Like, my body was, like, I wasn't, and I never lost weight or gained weight, but it was, my body needed less the further I got into it. I don't know if that makes sense. Like, it got more efficient with what it needed. Like, it just, like, there's a lot of, I mean, there was at one point where I was like, oh man, I can't stomach any more food. I'm like, I'm so done with eating. But then I kind of switched over to doing smoothies just so I can get what I needed in, and got all my calories while I was doing it. But also it just kind of felt like I just needed a little less, like I didn't need as much, like it just became more efficient. My body was just kind of working through things a lot better and recovering a lot quicker, and just like it just became smarter.
Yeah. And with like this, this string of events or other types of events, do you usually have kind of a strategy where you're trying to get a certain number of calories or carbs in per hour, or how much you're drinking and everything, or how, like, what does that look like typically?
For me is kind of, I'd love to say yes, but I don't really. I kind of just go with what my body needs. Like it will tell me when I need more calories or what I need, and kind of switch up. I kind of, yeah, I do have like a certain amount that I know I need to kind of take every hour and stuff like that, but I kind of don't stick to that. Like, I just kind of adjust. I've become a very adaptive with that.
So what did that look like then? Let's jump to your 200-mile event that you just did. Especially when you're really sleep deprived, I'm sure. And then the weather was all bonkers, and like your leg was giving you all sorts of issues. So like let's talk about what was in your tent, what you were actually taking. What struggles did you have? Was appetite ever an issue, or and then you're like sleeping your chunks, so it's like a total hot mess, right?
It was a total hot mess. But what was good was with the doing 1 mile lap. Like, you could, like, I literally had a table set out, and I had all my nutrition on there. So I had my Tailwind, I had some Spring Energy, I had strip waffles that I always have with me, and gummy worms. Obviously, I had gummy worms. I'm addicted to gummy worms. I had those all so kind of set up with all my water and things like that. So with doing a lap, I made sure that every lap, like every mile, I'd come around and either do hydration or I'd grab some food. So it was kind of, it was a good way of keeping me fueled, making sure I was hydrating, because hydration is hydration for me has always been really tricky because I forget to drink water a lot of the times. That's for some reason that's always something I have to work at and like be forced to do. But like so that was a good way of kind of coming around, doing a circle, and then just grabbing what I needed. So it would be one loop like hydration, the next loop it would be some food, and then go around the next one. So I kind of split it up like that, just to kind of like even it out a little bit, and that worked really, really well. It kept my energy levels up. I mean, my downfall this time was just my blade crushing my knee for some reason. So I'm like, you can't predict that. So I was like, oh, what the hell?
Yeah. And I mean, are you not feeling thirsty? Like, what do you think the struggle is with the hydration? Like just on a daily basis, do you feel like you're good with water or no?
I'm probably not that great with water anyway in general. So it's kind of just getting into a mindset where I kind of start drinking water when I get thirsty, which in an ultra isn't always a good thing. You kind of need to be on top of it because by the time you get thirsty, it might be a little late. So you kind of just have to be. So that's definitely something I'm working on to get better at, just to make sure that I kind of get. And I think with the 200 miler, I actually worked it out pretty well doing it that way around. So that's definitely another lesson for my 100 miler, just to be a little bit more on top of that.
Yeah. Are you a sweaty runner? Like, do you sweat a lot or no?
No, that's a problem.
Okay. Well, it's honestly a problem. I mean, that could explain part of it, but
yeah, exactly. And I just literally I forget. It's like the weirdest thing. But especially in Arizona, like
I was about to say,
when we moved to Arizona, it's a dry heat, which makes it even worse. And it's like, oh man.
Yeah, because I was gonna say, like, you were in North Carolina for a while, and now you're living in Arizona, and I mean, that must be a real challenge in terms of the heat, and I'm sure you've had to kind of adjust some of your nutrition strategies to deal with that change in climate, right?
Yeah, I have to, and it's getting in more salt when you're out running and things like that, because I've had symptoms of like I have felt so nauseous after a run and stuff, and then I'm like, how much salt did I take in? How much water did I take? I'm like, that would explain it. So it's kind of just getting that balance. I mean, I feel like with running, it's like I'm always learning. There's always something, like it's not everything goes smoothly, and then you're like, okay, I need to adjust this, and then like you'll just get your nutrition working, and then you're like, oh wait, my hydration, I've forgotten about my hydration, and it's just like it's always a balancing act, which makes running exciting, because it's like I'm always learning. I'm always like there's always improvements that can be made. If there wasn't, then I'd get really bored, I guess.
For sure.
I can always be better.
Yeah. What do you use additional like salt products, or is it just the Tailwind and like real food?
No, I also use some salt stick, which I was introduced actually when at one of the ultras. No, it wasn't at an ultra. It was funny. It was at I did TransRockies. Was 4 years ago now, I think. And it was funny, at one of the aid stations they had salt sticks, and it was like a capsule that they had taken out, and they just poured the salt over a watermelon. And I kind of stopped there, and it was the weirdest sighting, because I was like, wait a minute, are they giving out cocaine or something? Because I'm like, this looks really weird.
Well, that's like me running around with my Tailwind in a baggie, right? It's like looks so dodgy when I travel. I'm like, what is this white powder?
I know. And it was just going, because I had no clue this stuff existed. And I was like,
oh, okay.
And then they were like, no, it's just some good old salt. I was like,
yeah.
Oh.
Did that taste good?
Yeah, and it was watermelon with salt. With that is like the best thing. It is so good.
So I've had watermelon with like normal salt, but I've never opened up my salt stick capsules onto something.
It's the best.
I just pop it in.
Try that next time.
I'll have to try that.
Try your capsule, pour it over. It's the best thing ever.
Got it. So since we're talking about TransRockies, I mean, how might things differ for other types of events? And you have this 100 miler coming up, when it's not a loop course, and, especially if it's something in the mountains, which kind of changes things a bit. What, do you tend to kind of do a lot of the same things just with small tweaks, or, what might things look like for you nutrition wise?
I think it's more of a, I do a lot of the same things, but I just
Hmm.
then end up carrying everything with me. Because I don't tend to like, I know what works for my gut. So I tend to carry everything in my hydration vest if I'm out on there
Hmm.
on these mountain races rather than relying on aid stations and things like that. So
Yeah.
I'll just like pick up maybe a few, I don't know, a few little things as I go past an aid station if I don't have any more on me. But I
Mm.
think that's kind of the tweaks I do more or less. Yeah, I kind of go into the races more or less because I know now what works for me and what doesn't. So it's kind of just carrying that and making sure you have enough calories. And I guess just working it out because if you're not doing a loop race, just making sure you've got enough calories that you kind of then I'm a little bit more organized and kind of work out how much do I more or less think I need with me versus
Hmm.
just the loop you can just pick it up as you go, so you don't really have to work it out as much.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, no, for sure. I'm the same way. I've run events where like I literally just used aid stations for water.
Yeah.
And like I'll literally like I'll be able to load it up my vest, and it seems ridiculous to carry so much stuff because I'm only really doing 50Ks right now. But like
Yeah.
my pack will be so heavy at the beginning, and then I'll maybe see something in the aid station, be like, ooh, I want to try that sometime, and I'll pick it up. I'm the same way. I'm the exact same way. What was I going to ask you? Oh, it just eluded me. Oh, I know what I was going to say. So you said you use stroopwafels, and of course you lived in the Netherlands. So my question
Uh-huh.
is, do you use real stroopwafels or do you use like the goo or honey stinger ones?
No, I use real ones.
Of
No,
course.
I'm not gonna use the Goa honey ones. No, you have to use the real Dutch ones. Come on.
Yeah.
You have to use
Yeah.
the Dutch ones.
I was hoping you were going to say that, but I didn't know. I mean, the other ones are okay, but they don't taste the same,
No,
obviously.
no. I've tried. I was like, oh, I'm gonna try this. I'm like, oh no, you
Some of
gotta
those
have the real
flavors
one.
are horrible. Like I forgot it was, like a lemon ginger. I don't know what it was. It was disgusting. I spit that out.
They've ruined strip
Gross.
waffles. No,
Yeah,
no.
no, I know. Yeah. You got to get the originals for sure.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. I see that you run with your daughter. That's so cool. I have two young daughters. I can't wait for them to start running with me. But how long does she still run with you? How long does she run for? Tell me a little bit about that.
The max she'll go is 3 miles. Well, actually, she's done. She actually did a 8 miles with me before at a
Oh, fun.
ultra. That her husband and I were doing loops, so she got to run quite a few laps with us, which was really cool. But like her average is probably like 3 miles. Yeah, we kind of just run around the neighborhood and stuff. But we started her when she was 5.
Hmm.
And she just wanted to come out with me. And
Hmm.
obviously, I mean, when she started, it was like not very far. I mean, it would literally be down the block and then kind of back and stuff. So it
Hmm.
wasn't far, and a lot of walking and stuff like that. But it's just been great because just to kind of get her involved and just be there. I mean, both my kids were at the 200 milers, so they did the last 5 laps with me, which was great.
Oh, cool. That's
Hanging out
awesome.
with mommy and stuff like
Yeah.
that. And which was good because I did and I said that because I um at 195 I had a total meltdown, and that was
Ugh.
the last 5 laps I had to do. And I was like, I can't do this anymore. It's so running is so funny. Like you can just have this total like block of like you just can't see the end of it.
Mm.
But sometimes it's really hard, and it was good because they saw that, and I think it was really good for them because it's not always easy, but they saw me pick myself up and not give up and keep going. So it's I want them to be in that environment, but I never force them to do any of the running or anything like that because I want them to make their own decision about sports and kind of get into it. There's just no pressure. They just need to do what makes them happy.
Yeah, yeah, but it helps to see both your parents, modeling,
Yeah.
being runners and doing all sorts of hard things
Well,
and everything, which is great. Do you guys ever do like family runs or not really?
We used to when we were in North Carolina. We haven't actually done that yet in Arizona, but we definitely need to. So yeah, that will be
Okay.
fun.
Do you ever run with your husband?
We do sometimes. We do some training runs together. And then he usually goes, because he's a lot faster than me. And then he
Mm.
usually does my training run with me, and he goes, "Oh, I need to get my miles in now." I'm like, "Oh, okay, bye."
Okay. Are you guys doing the same events or do you guys do different things?
No, we do different ones. Just because of the kids.
Sure.
It's just hard. Like one always has to be on duty.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
so it's we kind of split it up. I mean, when the kids are a little older, then hopefully we'll be able to do some more runs together.
Hmm.
But I think he kind of likes doing his own thing just because he's faster than me. So he's like,
Hmm.
I want to go race. I'm like, okay, bye.
Yeah, yeah. Who does most of the cooking in your house? Like just I mean, you're kind of always training for something, and we went through kind of what a typical day might look like when you're doing your, back-to-back marathons,
Yep.
but just kind of going through a typical day with, eating with the family and doing all that stuff. Like, what does that usually look like?
I do most of the cooking.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, it's weird. Like my cooking, just where I grew up. My mom wasn't a very good cook. And so I kind of taught myself really,
Mm.
as I kind of went along and stuff like that. So yeah, I do all the cooking, which is, I mean, yeah, our day is pretty much the kids go to school. I do my training runs. They come home, we do homework. So it's kind of like a full on, and then obviously have
Hmm.
dinner, and just it's just it kind of sometimes feels like it's nonstop, I guess. But
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
so
yeah.
good.
Yeah. And I saw that you recently started working with Now Foods. They just sent me like a ton of samples. And I like tried some of their stuff. They sent me like some of their foods and other things, but have you been using some of their stuff?
I have. I love Now. They're such a brilliant company.
Yeah.
I went out. They took me out to their factory not that long ago.
Yeah.
Kind of go and check it out and stuff. I absolutely love them. They've got an hydration drink that I'm using now a lot, which has been brilliant. It's called Effer Hydrate,
Hmm.
which is really, really good. I've been using their whey protein too.
I use
It's all
that.
my
Yeah.
shake stuff. So
Hmm.
yeah, it's all like I'm kind of exploring some more of their other products. Because I haven't been that long with them, so I'm just kind of
Mm,
testing different things. I use a lot of their beetroot too, which is great.
mm,
They have like a beetroot supplement.
yeah.
I've just actually ordered some of their beetroot powder,
Oh,
which
cool.
I want to kind of use and test out like on salads and stuff like that, which I think will be really, really good. So I love their product.
Their salted caramel almonds are
Oh,
ridiculously
my
good.
son is addicted to those.
My
He's
my yeah,
absolutely
my
like I
children.
can't like as soon as I get a bag, I have to hide it because he just eats them all.
Yeah, yeah, it was really that was one of my favorite food products that we got. It was so delicious.
It's so good. But
And they
their
sent
their
yeah.
their energy, what their raw mix energy nut mix, I think it is. I don't know what it's called,
Oh,
but
I haven't
I
tried
just
that.
ordered some more of that. It's like a mixture with I think it's got cranberries in, some raisins, and just a whole bunch
Mm,
of nuts and stuff. Is really, really good. That too,
yeah.
as a snack, just during the day, is really, really good.
Okay, good to know. Yeah, they sent me some of their essential oils and things. They have like so
Nice.
I couldn't believe like there were like a billion products on their website. Like I couldn't like I literally was sending this woman a list. I was like, "Are you sure I can try all these things?" And
I know. I know. I
so
was
on the
when I
bag.
signed with them, I was
Yeah,
surprised with how many products they have. I was like,
insane.
"What? You do literally everything."
This is like it's like a department store of whatever.
Yeah,
It was
exactly.
insanity. It was so crazy. And some of the things I've really liked, some not so much, but that's what I
Okay.
expect. But no,
Well,
I'm supposed to go out there in September to see their
nice,
and
nice,
basically
nice,
do
nice.
that same thing you did.
Yeah.
Anywho, okay, total sidetrack there. Well, you have a busy 2023 lined up, so you're training for this 100 miler. When is that, by the way?
That's April Fest.
Oh, very exciting.
Yay!
And you have the Boston Marathon and the
Um,
TransRockies, I believe.
yes,
Um, so you feel like your nutrition's pretty dialed in for this stuff? Are you
I
working on
think so.
anything else
Yeah,
for
I
yourself?
think
Yeah.
I feel like I know what works for me now.
Mm,
And it's just kind of just keeping on top of it, I guess. Like I mean, you never know with these races. Sometimes you just get sidetracked and you're not. And once you're not on top of it, then it kind of goes sideways really quickly.
yeah. Yeah. Okay. So, but your like A race is the 100 miler?
It is. That's my A
Okay.
race. Yeah, yeah.
What's your goal for that? Do you have a goal?
I want to be top 10 female. That's
Amazing.
kind of my goal. So yeah, I'm really gonna put absolutely everything into this race. So let's yeah. Fingers
Where
crossed.
where
I'll
is
get
that
it done.
race?
Pardon?
Where is that race?
It's in Raleigh.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, in North Carolina. It's such a great race. I always recommend. I tell everyone if you get a chance, sign up for the race. It's hard to get into,
Mm,
just because they have like a weird lot. Like they have a weird registration process, and it's really hard. But it's such a community event. The entire community comes around to kind of cheer everyone on, and it's one of the state parks where it's done. So what's great is the state park stays open to the public. So what you
mm.
have is people come out for a bike ride and stuff, but they know the race is there, so they come out on their bikes, cheer people on, and just kind of get on with their day. So it's like, yeah, it's weird. Like you're doing this race, but you're still part of like just everyone else is out there doing their training run, doing their own thing. So yeah,
Mm-hmm.
it's a great atmosphere.
Awesome. And Boston then is like right after that. So that's kind of like a fun run, I guess.
I'm like, seriously.
Wait, but I mean, because you did Boston last year as part of like, your consecutive marathons. Is this like a fun run, or are you like really trying to compete in the para division?
Well, I am supposed to be competing in the para division, so we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, because that's like 2 seconds after your 100 miles.
I'm not sure I can walk it. I'm like, yeah, it's fine. But
Oh my God.
it's funny because they put my it's hilarious because they put my name down as in the para division, and they put my PR of last year's one, and I'm like, well,
Mhm.
that's not really my marathon PR. I'm like, can you just put a caveat there that was marathon number 92? Come on.
Oh my God. Yeah. Seriously.
I'm
That's
like,
okay.
seriously.
That way your competitors will be tricked into thinking
Exactly. So like, that's all good. You know,
I don't have to
at
worry
the end of
about
the day,
that.
I don't care.
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, whatever.
And the TransRockies, when is that? Over the summer, or when is that happening?
That is August.
August.
Yeah,
Okay.
so it's in August. Yeah, so that will be fun. Yeah,
Okay.
it's always a good race there. It's good to go back to go do it again.
Mhm.
It's always fun. Yeah.
Okay.
Hope Pass in Colorado always kicks my butt, but it's
Mm.
fine.
I've only done one race in Colorado. I did like this race in Steamboat Springs, and I swear to God, I thought I was actually dying. Like it was, I can't with elevation. I just
I
am the
know,
worst.
I know. It's like
at all.
that's what I had with TransRockies last time when you climb up to Hope Pass. I was like, I think someone's gonna have to fly me off this mountain
Yeah,
because I
like
can't
cannot
breathe.
breathe. Yeah, cannot breathe. And
So
like I had running friends running this race with me who I'm like normally like way faster on like
yeah,
road sea level, and they were kicking my ass so hard. Like I like could barely walk, and they were just like la di da di da because they lived in
that's so
Denton,
annoying.
Boulder, and I'm just like ugh, this is so infuriating. So yeah, me and running in Colorado don't get along too well. I'm just a wimp with elevation. Whatever happened with Moab 240? Because I know like you had to drop
Yeah,
out the first time, and the
yeah.
second time it's on your calendar, and then it just like dropped off, or what happened?
It was weird. Like it was after the marathon thing. Like things just kind of got like so hectic with
Yeah.
interviews and just
Oh
I
yeah.
kind of felt a little overwhelmed. And
Mm.
then I just couldn't get into things like kind of into my mojo and stuff. So I
Yeah.
decided to take a step back. So I was like, you know what, it just isn't the right time. And so now I'm kind of like, I need to go back. I was planning to do it this year, but I'm just kind of on the fence a little bit about it. So I was like, I'm not sure
It's
now.
in the fall. It's like October, right?
Yeah, it's October. Yeah. So
That's
I
a
still
pretty
I still
stacked
have some time.
schedule. That's a pretty stacked schedule. And then you said you also want to do the race across the years again. So
Yeah, exactly. So it's like something needs to
that's
give.
tough.
So it might not be the time of the year to do 240 miles. So I'm kind of like, yeah. I mean, it's kind of one of those things where I have to go back to finish it just because I DNF'd it.
Mhm.
But it doesn't have to be this year. So I'm still kind of on the fence about it.
Mm. And what's pulling you back to the race across the years? Like, even though it was so hard, it was just like a great experience, or like what's making you go back? I'm curious.
It's a great experience, actually. It is.
Yeah.
It's more the community because I met
Uh-huh.
so many wonderful people that come out there that literally that's all they do is 6-day races.
Yeah.
It's such a different world. I mean the Australian girl Annabelle who won
Mhm.
the 6-day. I mean, she literally travels all around the world just to do 6-day races. And it's like you're talking to these people, and it's such an interesting community. And I think that's what draws me. I've always been drawn to races community. That's kind of what I got into running for.
Yeah.
And so I just feel like this race they have people that have been doing it for years that like received their 1,000-mile jackets and stuff like that. So it's like it's a special community, and that's kind of what kind of draws me to it, even though it was a painful race. And I'm blocking that part out, as we all do. It's like, oh yeah, it's a great idea.
Yeah, I should totally do that one again. Yeah. No, I mean, and I can see too how, like, you know, it's funny because ultra running has so many different like sub kind of categories and communities and such, and especially as ultra running becomes so much more, or has become so much more mainstream now, and running 100 miles. I mean, I'm not running 100 miles, so I will speak for other guys, but running 100 miles is much more common, and other people are then searching for like new challenges, let's say. Not that 100 miles is not challenging enough. I'm sure it is. Is there much community in the world of amputee ultramarathoners? Because when I was looking around prepping for this, I saw there was one other below the knee amputee ultramarathoner, Amy Palmiero Winters, and I don't know, like, is there much of a community for other amputees who are running? I'd love to hear more about that.
No, unfortunately there isn't. And I'm hoping, like me doing what I'm doing, there'll be more coming kind of into the world of ultra running. I mean, it's hard because it's like there's so much more things that go into it, running as an amputee, just stump wise, like prosthetics wise. I mean, it's expensive, and a lot of the athletes aren't sponsored either, so it kind of adds up. So there's it's kind of all those elements that kind of go into it. But yeah, I'm working hard on trying to get more athletes out there and into the sport.
Yeah. Do you know this? I don't know anything about this woman, Amy, but I just happened to find her online. Like, do you know her personally, or have you talked to her at all, or no?
No, I have not.
Yeah. But I know you raised a ton of money, you know, in all of your marathons to help give people running blades. What's going on with that now? Have people actually been getting them yet, or is it not at that stage?
It's not at that stage yet. They are keeping me updated, so I need to follow up. Actually, I haven't followed up for a while. They would. Yeah, I don't actually know what's happened with that now. Because the last time I spoke to them, they were kind of still in the planning stages. But what was great was they were getting a lot more applications in, which was phenomenal. So hopefully, they should be able to help a lot.
How many running blades did you raise money for to get?
They had said, what was it again? I think it was.
Because those things are expensive. You said it was 10,000 each, right?
Yeah.
Wow, crazy.
Yeah.
And running's an inexpensive sport, they say. Ha 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 ha.
I know.
It's not even inexpensive for people without like amputation.
Yeah, but that's the thing. And even like if you look at like because we need the race entry, which has become ridiculously expensive.
Yes.
And then it's the prosthetics. I mean, like even just one of my liners that I use because the funny thing is just before across the years, I noticed that one of my liners had a hole in it, which means then the blade doesn't suck on anymore, it doesn't hold.
Oh.
And I was like, oh shoot, I have one more, and it's like I don't have time to get more. And one of those liners cost me like $300 just for one.
How long do they last for?
Well, if you do crazy things like I do, probably about 3 months.
Oh my god, that's crazy expense.
So you have all those type of things too. So it's not just like if you have 2 legs, you put on a pair of running shoes, which I mean running shoes are expensive too, but with running with a prosthetic, you need the prosthetic, which costs a ridiculous amount of money. But then you need the liner that goes with it. You need the liner sock that goes with it, and the liner sock, like it's one sock that goes on my skin. That cost me $20 per sock.
Jesus.
Yeah.
Wait, can you reuse that?
I can reuse them. I mean, they get washed and stuff, but it's literally like your running sock that you get. It's kind of the same thing, and they don't last very long.
Ugh.
And so you kind of, with every run, you put a new one on. So I'm going through, if I have a run every week, I go through 7 a week.
Wow.
And it's like $20 per one sock, and they probably last me about 3 months.
Wow.
One of those socks. So it's just that too, and it's just insane.
Yeah, so it's like all of that plus the other expenses, which is funny because, I work with private nutrition clients, and I'm always like trying to get them to fuel adequately during like longer runs and all that, and often, many people are not. And so, but then one person kind of categorized it like, well, my long run is then going to be like $30 worth of gels. And I'm like, I didn't think about it in that way, but like look at Spring Energy and Morton and all the, I mean, they're expensive. They're so crazy.
I know.
It's nuts. I spend so much money on gels. So I was like, oh yeah, that's lots. They're like, I don't want to use my expensive gels. I don't want to take as many in. I'm like, no, you have to. Yes. I'm like, I know it is.
With the 200 miler, I was like using more natural food than Spring Energy, because I'm like, I can't afford, like, it's 6 days of Spring Energy gels.
Yes, no way. It gets out of control. That's when like my husband at aid stations, he's like shoving things in his pockets. He's like, oh, Spring Energy is like sponsoring or something. He's like, just like, especially the last aid station.
Take it all.
Everything. I don't care about the extra rate, just shoving it in his pocket.
Well, that's the way to do it.
Yeah, you gotta get your money's worth when you're paying all this money.
Yeah, exactly.
Anywho. All right. Well, I just have my quick bites questions left, and then I'll set you on your way.
Cool.
Favorite meal or snack pre-workout?
Favorite meal or snack? Workout would. I'm gonna have to go with my bowl of oats with banana and raisins. I always seem to have that.
Awesome. What's your favorite post-race meal or snack?
Some yogurt with some banana. And
favorite
sometimes I throw some
meal
berries. Sometimes I throw some berries in there.
Okay. What kind of yogurt are you doing? Like Greek yogurt, regular yogurt?
Yeah, Greek yogurt.
Yeah. What's your favorite meal or snack when you're not in a hurry, you're just kind of chilling out, doing your thing?
My favorite meal. Well, my favorite snack would probably be bagel with some peanut butter on it.
Yum.
Like I have that, like in between, like if I'm not. Yeah.
Okay. What is your biggest cooking catastrophe if you've had one?
Biggest. Oh, I don't know.
If you've had one. If you haven't had one, you can just skip it.
I haven't had one. I don't think so. Well, if you consider that I threw boiling water over my leg, that's probably what it would be. I actually, I was cooking. I was actually making some soup for dinner, and a glass beaker broke, and the hot water kind of fell, like it just like random, just total freak accident, just off the counter onto my leg, and I actually had these massive big blisters. I had to go to the emergency room.
Oh my god!
Yes,
wait, which leg?
Disaster.
Wait, your amputated leg or your other leg?
No, my good leg. Can you believe it?
Oh, no.
I'm like, seriously?
Oh, that sucks. What's the most bizarre or exotic food that you've ever tried?
The most exotic would probably be ostrich meat.
I love ostrich. In South Africa, I got where was I? I think it was in Cape Town, and it had the best like ostrich burger.
It's weird. Like it has to be cooked really well. It can be hit or miss.
Yeah. And in London, in Borough Market, they had like an exotic meat stand, and so I'd always go and get ground ostrich. I'd make like chili and stuff. It's very lean, and it was actually really tasty.
Yeah, it is.
But it's harder to get out here. How do you like your eggs cooked if you eat eggs?
I don't eat eggs.
Interesting. You don't like them?
No, I don't know. For some bizarre reason, I don't like them. I don't know why. It's just weird. I was just one of those weird. I'm fine with it, like being in like baked in something like that, but not actually like eggs on its own. Like weird. It's just weird.
Interesting.
But when I used to eat them a long time ago. For some reason, just over the years, I stopped eating them. I would do scrambled eggs.
Oh, you would do scrambled. Oh, back then.
Back then. Yeah.
Are there any other foods that you just like hate, like common foods that you avoid or hate, or whatever else?
No. I think
You eat other things.
no,
Okay.
I eat most things except egg.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All good.
Yeah, everything else I eat, I think. Yeah.
What is your favorite beverage?
I actually my favorite beverage is sparkling water. What's it?
Spindrift.
Yeah, there we go.
That's a
Okay,
very
yeah, I
common
don't know if
answer.
that counts as a beverage, but yeah.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
addicted to coffee though, so I'm a big coffee drinker.
Yes, me too. What are your comfort foods?
My comfort foods would probably be a nice hot bowl of minestrone soup. And pancakes. I love pancakes.
Yum.
But
Which kind
but
of do
not
you make them
not
from
not
scratch or
American pancakes though. Not
okay?
American pancakes. It has to
Which
be
kind?
more like British pancakes, which is the
Uh,
thinner, more like a crepe
yes, yes,
with
yes.
like cinnamon and sugar on it.
Yum.
That's how we do it in South Africa. It's like cinnamon
Yeah,
and sugar on it. That's the only way I know. My kids
yeah,
love it. So I'm
yeah,
like, yeah, when it's a bit of a gloomy day, that's kind of what I'll make some pancakes.
yeah. I have a good South African friend who introduced me to rusks, and she would like make rusks, and we would have them in tea. And I was like, oh,
Uh-huh.
this is very nice. I like that a lot.
Yeah, that's
So
really good. And my kids absolutely love it too. They're always like, "Mommy, when are you gonna order some rusks?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm trying to find a place that we can get them all."
yeah.
Yeah.
Do you ever
My
go back to South Africa?
I haven't been back for a while. My husband was back a few months ago, for his mom's 80th birthday,
Oh
and of
wow.
course he brought a suitcase back full of rusks and everything else, which is great.
Yeah, yeah. Oh my God. I'm dying to go visit my friends. They're in Johannesburg, but I'm waiting until my children are a little bit older and then we can all do safari and also
Yeah,
like a
yeah,
3-year-old on
that's
a plane to South Africa from California sounds like would just shoot me.
no,
So no thanks.
my husband from Arizona. He was like on a 26-hour. It took him
Oh
like
my God.
26 hours to get
No,
there.
thank you.
I'm
That's
like,
insane.
oh man. So we're the same, just waiting for the kids. I mean, they're
Yeah.
kind of now, I guess they would,
Yeah.
because we went back when Eliza's 10. So the last
Mm.
time we went to South Africa was when she was 2. So
Ah,
it's
oh my
been a
goodness.
while, and then
Wow, brave.
she can't remember anything. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, and that was a fun trip because both my kids on the flight decided to have tantrums,
Of course.
and
Why wouldn't they?
one went, and then we calmed the one down, and then the next one went. Can
Yep.
you imagine being on such a long flight and you have these two children, and we were beside ourselves. We were like, we don't know what to do.
Yeah, no, I've definitely been there. I mean, granted, it was just like New York to California, but pretty much the equivalent on that flight. Then I was on a flight to Hawaii, and my sister's 18-month-old, or was it he? I think it was 20 months old, and he
Yeah.
was screaming for so long and so loud that the flight attendant made an announcement and was saying how spacious and comfortable the lavatories were. Like basically be like, get your child in the lavatory now. And then brought my sister a cocktail.
You know it's bad then when they do that.
Yeah, they kind of not so subtly said, please bring your child to the bathroom and
Oh
lock
my
the child
goodness.
in until he starts soccer. Yeah, no, I've been on all, yeah. It's traveling with kids is so much fun.
It is. That's why I'm like 26 hours. Like even with them being older
Yeah.
now, I'm like it just will be a nightmare. So I'm like, but I want to take them though so they can go on a safari because I think it's a heck of an experience.
Yeah, no, for sure.
So-
And I want to, so my husband, like when he turns 50, in a few years, we were talking about how it'd be fun to like go run comrades together.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
have you run comrades?
No, not yet, but it is on our list. We have to do it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's
Yeah.
weird because I grew up watching it on TV.
Yeah.
And just like it's like yeah, it's kind of one of those iconic races you have to go out and run it.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. Or we're either going to do that or like, was it Two Oceans in Cape Town?
Yeah.
Is that
Yeah,
how
Two
that
Oceans
race is
is
a shorter race, right?
Yeah, it's a shorter race.
Yeah. So my friend and I were like, the husbands can watch the kids and we're going to go run the Two Oceans together.
That sounds like a good. Yeah, that's a great plan.
Some combination of kids are older, someone does some running event, someone watches the kids. That's what's going to happen. That's going to be my next trip to South Africa. All right, a couple more questions. Usually this is about ice cream, but I'm going to make it about gummy worms. What's your favorite gummy worm flavor?
Oh, I don't have a flavor. I just like them all.
Really? You don't like the red better? I feel like the red's the best. The red-white
Yeah.
combo. Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
I
You
don't
like
know.
all of them.
No, I
Even the
like them
green?
all.
Even the
Yeah,
green and the
green.
yellow?
Yeah, even the green. I'm
Ugh,
not fussy when it comes to gummy worms. I
okay.
like them all.
And is it
Oh,
always
they
gummy?
all equal.
Okay, great. Is it always gummy worms, or do you ever do gummy bears or other
No,
gummies?
I don't. It's weird. They don't taste the same. It has to be gummy worms.
That's so funny.
It is. It's so funny because my husband will like, oh, but just get gummy bear. I'm like, no, don't even bring me gummy bears. Don't.
Did you ever have in the UK, what is it, gummy babies? No, what are they called? Something
Jelly babies.
babies. Jelly
Jelly
babies,
babies.
thank you.
Yeah, jelly
Jelly
babies. Yeah.
Yeah. So I remember when I was first getting into long distance running, I would always like carry a handful of jelly babies.
Jelly babies.
Those things are weird. I had them like
They
more
are
recently. They're just so sweet.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's
Yeah.
just a very strange thing. But
Yeah,
anywho,
it's weird.
something else
They're
to
all
eat.
weird.
Yeah. Okay, last question, and I'm sure Running Blade is going to be one of these answers. Top 3 items of gear that are most essential to your active lifestyle.
Duct tape.
Duct tape. Okay. Tell me. Why? Are you duct taping your blade?
There's always things that go wrong with my running blade. Like it's like when you're pushing limits like that, it's bound to happen. It's not anything to do with the way the blades are made and stuff, but I'm doing extreme. So it's like either my valve will go on my blade for the suction, so that helps. I can kind of tape it in to keep the air locked in. Or my tread will fall off, and that happened at the 200.
Oh,
The
I
200
saw a
miler.
picture of that.
Yeah,
That's what the duct tape
my
was.
tread just came
Oh.
off. So
Oh,
I had to
geez.
use duct tape. So I think that to me is like on my top of my list. I know it sounds really weird, but it has to be duct tape.
Okay, so it's running blade, duct tape, and what's the third?
Probably my running shoes, I guess.
What do you
I'm
run
always
in?
I run in ultras.
Nice. Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So, yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Jacky. This has been such a blast talking with you, and I think we covered some new ground, which I'm so grateful for again, for you sharing your story and and some new things as well. So thank you for inspiring us all to do hard things. I know you always say hashtag I can do hard things, and we can do hard things too. So thanks for motivating us. Have a great rest of your day, and good luck with the 100-mile training.
Thank you very much. Thank you, and thank you for having me on.
You're welcome. And that wraps up our show for today. Thank you again, Jacky, for your time today and for inspiring us all to do hard things. You can find Jacky online on Instagram, ncrunnerjacky, if you'd like to follow along with her adventures. And again, if you haven't already rated or reviewed my podcast on Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen, it takes 2 seconds and it would be so helpful to get this show out and, just promoting it to other listeners. So thank you again for your time, everybody, and hope to see you next time. Bye.